So this shows you how to control a circle. So this does a lot of things. This is one reason why we use this for the system so much. One is if we have a circle, okay, and both fighters are standing right here in this circle, okay. This fighter can go here, here, or any of these spots, or together, right? So both have unlimited options. Does that make sense? Okay. If one fighter was here and the other fighter was here, okay, this fighter can either go here because this person's sword can't reach as far over, okay, or he could step into the enemy's square or the player's square, which in case he's going to get attacked, or he can go this way where he's getting closer to the player's sword. So as you can see, it's not very smart for him to go here. It's not very smart for him to go here. Going here is not a good option as well. So the most logical option for him to be is to go here in a circle, right? So if we're here, this person has the option to go all these directions and he can go in the opponent's square. So this person has what would be called an advantageous position because now he has more options than the opponent. The opponent has less options and this one has more, okay? But that's not good enough. You want your opponent's options to also be their shittiest options, aka their shittiest parry. So if this person is right here, okay, and he's in the corner like this, if this was his worst parry, okay, then logically, that's the direction he needs to go is this way. Logically, if he gets attacked, that would be the best parry for the situation, which is now his worst parry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, if the player's best parry was also this parry, then now not only does he have more options, if the enemy attacks him, he's attacking into the player's best parry as well. Okay? So advantageous position is the combination of having an advantageous angle. What advantageous angle is where the opponent is attacking into your best parry or your best movements, and you're attacking into their weakest. Okay? So you have an advantageous board position where their options are limited. You have an advantageous angle where you have the proper eye alignment you want, right? To maximize your strengths, minimize your weaknesses, minimize their strengths, maximize their weaknesses. When you combine both of these, you have an overall advantageous position, meaning you have control of what the enemy's going to do, and you have control on the fact that it's their worst fucking options and they're attacking your best options. So you have an overall advantageous position. So it's important to separate the difference between advantageous angle. You could have advantageous angle and be in the middle of the board. So
I'm glad you said that because right now I'm looking at the arena as being round and then how you break it up into angles. But if it was like square, where how a lot of times we fight.
So if it's square, that's why we have this separate border right here, and these would just extend. So if it's a square now, like this, boom, here, like this. Okay, cut down. That was a horrible square I drew. Okay. So now we have our square, okay? These would extend here, and these would extend here, like this.
Oh, I can see that.
Okay?
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
So now, if the player is here, and the enemy is here, okay? And the player has his sword and his dagger, and the enemy has his sword and his dagger, okay? Now, if the enemy wants to step over here, the player would be attacking into this part on the enemy because that's closest, so this player would have to do this type of parry. The enemy then would be attacking into the player here, which is the player's best parry, to do this parry. Okay? So his logical step is to go here. If he goes forward, this player is just going to hit him in the middle of his movement. Easy tempo. If he goes this way, then what's going to happen is this part of his body is getting closer to his sword, so he's choking his own range up right here. So that's making him even easier to hit. So if he goes this way, even easier to hit. Goes forward, hit him in tempo. So his most logical option is to go this way, which is now into his best parry and into his worst parry. So this player can go here, he can go here, he can go here, he can go here, he can go anywhere he wants. Okay? So not only does he have less options, they're also limited. Now, if they were both in the middle of the board, okay, and say this was the player's best parry. So actually, let me switch this so there'd be eye alignment, okay? So it'd be more like over here. So this sword is here, okay? Now his dagger is right here. His sword is right here, okay? So now what's happening here is if he's in the proper eye alignment, the opponent is still attacking into his strength, his best parry, and he's still attacking into his worst parry because that's the quickest options, right? So this is using an advantageous angle. You have an advantageous angle, but you don't have an advantageous board position. Okay, so you don't have a full advantageous position. This is important because as blades, we have a checklist to fill. Once you fill this checklist, then you can attack. You can necessarily attack and stuff for, but okay, once this checklist is full, you try to kill him. Before then, you're just trying to gain control or gain position. So this whole time you're using eye alignment, you're pushing him back into this corner. Okay, so you're using eye alignment, doing whatever you need to push him in the control corner so that you have control through position. That's why we're seeking control in position. Okay, and if it's a square, it's even easier.
It's very predatory.
Very predatory, correct. So now, this still isn't enough. Okay, so now we know what advantageous position is, but we also said that we're seeking complete obedience. Okay, now what complete obedience is just because I have advantageous position, his options are limited, and they're his worst options. This isn't enough. We need to catch him in tempo. So this is why, as blades, we have to understand and know the cost of movement in order to know how to trigger a certain movement and benefit on the cost. So what we do is now when we have them in this corner, we do something to get them to do that movement we want. To do that movement that is also going to make it easier for us to kill him. So in other words, what we could do is we could cut to the leg right here so that he wants to take this step. So he goes to take the logical step. So the opponent thinks they're doing the right thing. By this point, they don't even realize how much they've already lost through advantageous position. So we've now tricked them into thinking they're doing the right movement, which now after we throw this leg shot, we would actually attack where they're going to be. So we feint the leg shot with, say, a cut, and then we attack them in the middle of their step where they're going to be into their worst parry while they're attacking into our best parry. This is complete obedience. Okay?
It's like setting a trap.
It's setting a trap, exactly. And so also what we're doing is if we throw this leg cut, okay? Now, if we throw this leg cut, then that dagger's going to come down, which is also going to be stuck in tempo. Then when we feint over there, now not only is his defense in tempo, now it has to stop and then bring that momentum back while trying to protect its weakest place. So you've now tempo locked their feet by getting them to step. You've also tempo locked their defense, and you've limited their options, and they're attacking into the best attributes on you while you're attacking the worst on them. You have plenty of options, and they don't. When you have achieved all of these things, you have achieved complete obedience because there's nothing they can do.
You just extorted them for everything they had.
Correct. So they're completely tempo locked. All their choices they had, you chose, and you forced them into their worst one. You had a bunch of choices, and they attacked into your best ones. Okay? So this is what we're seeking as blades. Okay? Now that's pretty in-depth, and that's a lot.
No, it sounds like the government.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay?
it's like fucked.
And now the thing about that is, there's a lot of things that happen up to getting to this point. Okay? So when the fight starts and we're both over here, okay, we're already assessing their stance. We're figuring out which more likely their parry is so that by the time we go to meet, we've already gained an advantage as we're stepping in range. Okay, so one thing I don't want to see is both fighters start and go directly down the center. Okay, because now you're not even trying to gain an advantage outside of range. Based on how they stance up, should already tell you which eye alignment you need. Then you start throwing your assessment attacks. While you're throwing your assessment attacks, you are going to be lying to them. Okay, so I've assessed them out of range, so I already have a good idea. Now once I'm here, I'm already starting to put them in the corner while throwing assessment attacks. Stuff that isn't actually at true speed, but it's telling me their best and their worst parries, so I know this by the time I get to the corner. Now, this whole time, you're also lying to them. You're throwing your attack short, you're throwing them slower, so that by the time you get them into that actual corner, they've misassessed you. So now when they're in the corner, you've also tricked them, and then you attack at true speed. So you've also given them a false sense of security, you've gained control over their fight, you've gained control over their mind, and you've gained control over the board. Okay, so this is essentially the complete obedience. So this is what we're seeking.